U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has landed in Taiwan after weeks of speculation over her potential visit. Beijing has called the move a major political provocation, and the Chinese Defense Ministry said it will launch targeted military operations to counter the visit. In a statement released as she arrived in the self-governing territory, Pelosi said the visit honors America's unwavering commitment to supporting Taiwan's vibrant democracy. So let's dive right into this. I'm joined in the studio by DW's chief international editor, Richard Walker. And in Taipei, we have Cao Tsung Han, DW correspondent, covering this story for us. So I want to begin with you. Can you give us an update with the latest from Taipei on this visit?
As you have mentioned, shortly after Nancy Pelosi landed, she issued a press release through her office announcing her visit to Taiwan. She also said the visit to Taiwan is in keeping with the United States' commitment to support Taiwan's democracy. Pelosi now has safely arrived at the hotel. Outside the hotel, hundreds of people were shouting welcome to Taiwan to her, holding different welcoming signs. But there were also small clashes between the Taiwan independent supporters and people who support unification with China. And on Taipei 101, we can see light of the words Taiwan and the U.S. and the red heart between them. The atmosphere is rather calm and peaceful.
Okay, very warm reception in that case. But Richard, this trip has been so controversial. What do we know about Pelosi's motives to go to Taiwan now, of all times?
Yeah, well, as we just heard there, so Pelosi has released a statement. She's also released an opinion piece in the Washington Post, sort of framing the reasoning behind her visit. And she's framing it very much in this kind of, supporting democracy and as part of what she frames as a kind of the world facing a choice between autocracy and democracy. So very much kind of putting this visit in that context of, for example, what's happening in Ukraine, of course, the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Also, what she is framing as a struggling democracy being invaded by an aggressor, and very much framing her visit to Taiwan in that context. And that is not going to sit at all well with the Chinese, of course, who will see this as an intrusion in their system. And also they will see support for Taiwanese democracy as code for effectively de facto support for Taiwanese independence, which is the reddest and ultimate red line for the Chinese.
So I want to get back over to you and ask, despite the controversy, what is on the actual agenda for Pelosi's visit?
Tomorrow morning, Nancy Pelosi will go to the Taiwanese Parliament, the Legislative Yuan, to meet the legislators. And afterwards, she will meet Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen, who will host her at a state banquet at noon. Then she will visit the White Terror Memorial Park, where housed military courts and detention center for political dissidents during the White Terror period. And she is scheduled to leave Taiwan on a special flight in the afternoon of August the 3rd.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Richard, what kind of reaction are we expecting to see from Beijing?
Well, we've also seen statements coming out, very extensive statement coming out of the foreign ministry of Beijing, saying that it wants to see the Americans kind of stepping back from what it sees as escalatory actions. And we've also had the PLA, the Chinese military, announcing that it is going to be launching operations, what it calls joint military operations around Taiwan, to the northern, the southwestern and southeastern regions of Taiwan Island. So this announcement has come through already. There are comparisons being made to the last kind of military operations on this scale that the Chinese launched back in the 1990s. So certainly, military steps being taken, but we'll obviously digest in the next few days to what extent these pose a risk to the stability in the region, or whether they manage to remain contained and avoid any escalation risk with the Americans, for instance.
Thank you so much for that. It was Richard Walker, our chief international editor here in the studio, and Cao Tsung Han, correspondent in Taiwan. Thank you so much, both of you. I earlier also spoke with Xie Jiwei, Taiwan's representative here in Germany, and I asked him how he feels about Pelosi's visit.
I'm much more happy, I'm grateful, and I'm happy, and think that happens in the right moment, when China has always tried to threat USA, Taiwan, try to threat democracy with military actions. As a matter of fact, this is a normal act as a normal action between friends with democracy. Is a sign of solidarity. So I'm confident and I'm happy, yes.
And do you think it's just symbolic, or are you expecting to see something concrete from this visit by Pelosi?
I think it's a break. It's a break with the so-called one China policy or one China principle. It's a fake news about the one China policy or one China principle, because China has been threatening Taiwan with one China policy, one China principle, and says that Taiwan is a part of the Chinese territory. It's a fake news. A democracy cannot be a part of a dictatorship. And the Republic of China is established in the year 1949 and has never governed Taiwan for one day, not even for 1 minute.
So do you see this as a turning point on Taiwan? I mean, how future-proof is the one China policy that the West has committed to and that more or less has kept the Taiwan question in limbo?
Well, you see, Speaker Pelosi has always been dedicating herself to freedom and democracy. So the visit of Taiwan today is, for me, a sign of sincerity, solidarity shown to Taiwan. And yes, I think you can call it a turning point, a very positive turning point, to tell the world of freedom, don't make any appeasement unnecessarily to China. They won't appreciate it. And they try to stop it with threatening with military forces. You have to answer. We have to answer it with justice. And I think it's not a collision. It's not a collision between China or the Taiwan. No, between China and USA. It's a collision between two value systems. A world of dictatorship and a world of democracy. They just don't know. China, they just don't know the separation of powers, executive, legislative, and judicial power. That's normal in USA, in Germany, in Taiwan. So the president cannot give order to the Speaker Pelosi and said, you visit Taiwan, you don't visit Taiwan. And that's for me, that's a collision of two value systems. And I think after the break of the invasions wars of the Russia into the Ukraine, the world, and that means the world of freedom, Germany, France, USA, Japan, and Taiwan, we have to stand together. United we stand, divided we fall. And I think that's a very, very positive turning point. Is also, and for me, is also a novel decision, a democratic decision made by Pelosi, who has been...
Forgive me for jumping in. I want to ask, though, this collision of systems, you call it, has potentially very serious consequences. The government in Beijing has warned of those consequences that Pelosi's visit would trigger. What do you think that would look like exactly?
I think Beijing has unnecessarily made out of this novel visit of the congressman, of the Speaker of Congress. They have turned it unnecessarily into a crisis, just like Blinken has said. There is also a president fall in 1997, visited by the Republican Speaker. I think it was a Newt Gingrich, 1999. So, as a matter of fact, it's nothing new.
Now, you also mentioned the war in Ukraine. All of this, of course, playing out against the backdrop of that invasion. It's a conflict where you have a big military power that's invaded its smaller neighbor. Do you see yourself in a similar situation in Taiwan?
Yes, indeed. And I'm not the only one who sees the things in this way. The German Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Frau Baerbock, who delivered a speech in the UN, and he said he wants China not to take an example on what Putin has done against the Ukraine. And that means she will stand in for Germany not only, but also for the world of freedom. The world of freedom would and should protect Taiwan from invasion from China, because they won't be protecting Taiwan. They will be protecting a member of the world of freedom. And only in this case, we can win the war against the Chinese dictatorship, who has been threatening not only Taiwan, but also Japan and other countries in the ASEAN League.